Back at her. So I moved it from the table onto the floor so I could actually reach the upper areas. I've got my laser level. I had to shim it up a bit on one corner here, but the upper longeron is perfectly level. This way, this way. Level across the top, level across here, level across here. I am just trying to figure out where to mount the main spar carry through. In the plans, I've looked everywhere, and it doesn't give a distance from here to here. And again, they are plans. They are not blueprints. I don't care if they're painted blue, they're not blueprints. Because the only thing I found, going back to the spar plans here, for the rear spar on the wing, it shows the sideways view, and the only thing in here, shim accordingly. And they've got 3/8 1/4 inch shim there shown. So that's it for all they show for that for a distance there. On the plans here, they don't show anything on those plans for that distance. On the plans here, I actually wrote this in, 27 3/4 inches. It is 27 3/4 inches from on the wing, the end of the rear spar. So from the back of the rear spar on the wing to the inside portion of the metal tab that sticks out of the wing, it is 27 3/4 inches. So if I take into account the 3/4 inch ply or 3/8 ply that I put on the back of the rib or the spar carry through, and I'm assuming that's there for strength just to beef it up a bit, because it still says shimmed fore and aft to clear rear spar. So they say start off with a 3/8 piece of ply, then they say to shim it as necessary on the spar carry through and on the spar. So they don't give you any dimensions on where you're supposed to put it. It's just left up to you to put it wherever the heck you want. And that's ridiculous. So I left the 3/8 in there. I believe that's there for strength. So if the rear spar of the wing comes right up to that, then on the wing spar, it will slip right into that there, the sparks carry through. If you add the thickness of that piece of metal. So from the 3/8, not including that, and that may be an 1/8, I'll double check that, to the front main spar carry through to where the metal tab is going to be, it's 27 3/4 inch. I don't believe in this, oh, just shim it as necessary whenever you get the wings put on, blah, blah, blah. If you take measurements now, you can get it to fit so that at least you can get it in place and then shim it a little bit if you have to once it's in place. And the thing I like about this is if you get it close, you can get it through there, and you may have to lift it up or lift it down a bit to drill the holes. But again, if you measure properly, you shouldn't have to do that either. As in any blueprint will tell you, you would put it exactly where the blueprint is. But since these are not blueprints, it's giving you all of this, well, you just cut it whenever you want to cut it, and you cut it however long you have to cut it for. So I measured that. I'm going to make it 27 3/4 to where this front spar carry through goes into that upper support. And that's what I wanted to know, because when you go to the plane, it doesn't give you any dimensions on how far to put this down, put this away. So do you have it here? 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 Where do you put it? And I wanted a little more. What I actually did, information, I actually took one of my templates and I built, or just cut out, an overview of the wing and what it's going to look like. So that is what it looks like. That matches up just about perfect there. I've got it measured down here to where the 27 is on that horizontal, I guess you call it, there. So I'm going to move this forward to the place where it has to be, cut it off here. This I made extra long, and I still didn't really make it long enough to go over top of this. So it's going to be cut in here somewhere. It probably could have even been a bit longer, but again, on the blueprints, it doesn't give you any dimensions for how long that is. So I made it longer than the plans show, and it's still, I think, a little short. But depending on where that comes to, we'll cut that down so that this comes right against it. In the plans, now if we can find the plans where that is, they show it matching up right at the top there, and they don't. That just doesn't happen, so don't expect that to happen. And get ready for shimming it as necessary, because I don't think it's coming right to here. Where I've got it marked there, it's only going to come to about here. So we'll have to shim that to make sure it's at the proper distance. And again, I don't want to bring it right to the front here, because that distance then isn't going to be appropriate, and you're going to have to shim one or the other a hell of a lot. And it's going to be this back one, because on the front wing, or on the wing, I've already got the two pieces of metal on the outside of the spar, and they're going to come in through here at a certain position. So I want to make sure this is in that right position so that the wing will just go through and mount onto the front spar carry-through. Theoretically, if I measure properly, that rear spar carry-through and the rear spar DHW, where did I put it? It was around here somewhere, and I just mocked all this up for now to show you what it's going to look like. So here's what's on the rear spar of the wing is going to go through into that, like that, coming through like this. I've just got this in a way right now, so that's the distance that I need. So from here, from this flat surface, it's 27 3/4 inches to the inside of the metal that's going to attach to this. So I have to measure 27 3/4 inches from there to the back of that spar where the metal's going to stick out, if that makes sense. I wanted to put this on there just so I got an idea of what it's going to look like, visual learner and all that kind of stuff. I mounted the 3/8 ply and the metal on here, just clamped it on just to get an idea of what I'm looking at when I put this on, where the rear spar is going to be. Then I can measure 27 3/4 and figure out where I need to be for mounting the spar carry through. All right, and I'm not sure, I'm just going to take a look, but it's not going to be up here like it shows in the plans. It's going to be right about where it is now, maybe a little bit forward. So we're going to cut it a little bit off of these. I'll have to add blocking in there to build up that distance, but that's kind of what it's looking like right now. Did I do anything else? Was I showing you guys anything else? I don't know if I got it on the last video. I've got my cross member in there mounted on the ply that carries the load across there, and I also put a corner block in there because if there's pressure coming this way, it's going to push this up, and this cross member, this diagonal, is going to want to slide up. So I added that little block there, so you're doubling anyways, the amount of glue area holding that diagonal in place, if that makes sense. It should. I've just got the tail fin kind of sitting there. I've got the cooler holding cold beer and supporting it so that it's perfectly level. So that I'm working on it, I have quick access to a cold one. But I've got that cut to approximately where it's going to sit in the whole thing. I still need to, when I get everything done here, I'll pull some strings across and find out what kind of profile I'm going to have on that back part of the fuselage. On the plans, they just call for square all the way to the front. I don't want square all the way to the front. I don't want it to look as boxy as that. So I was wondering about a rounder profile on there. Rounder profile, rounder profile, rounder profile. I'll see what I can do there, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I don't, it looks just too square for me. I want a little rounder profile to that. Anyways, let's carry on with the work. Okay, I've got the little piece just sitting here. Now it's not going to match perfectly there. There's a little bent that's getting cut off because I've got this is extra long, but it's just sitting in there. It won't fit flush with the bottom. It's going to stick out a little bit just because of the rounded corners on the bottom right in there. So from where it sits, I took a measurement from here, the back of the spar on the wing, 27 3/4 inches. So that gets me right to there. So on the wing, there's a piece of metal sticking out right at 27 3/4 inches. That's going to go onto the spar carry through. So if it was right on the spar carry through, it would be right there at 27 3/4. But that piece of metal that is on the spar carry through that we're going to mount on there is 1/8 of an inch added onto that spar. So then we move the spar over another 1/8 of an inch, or the front spar carry through, sorry. So that front spar carry through isn't going to be at 27 3/4, it should be 1/8 more than that. And that's where I will mount the spar, and then, or the spar carry through will be mounted here, and then that little piece of metal is going to stick out 1/8, and that's what the spar bracket will mount onto, right like that. And then the rear spar should be right there, right where we measured from. So, if all the measurements are correct, it should just fit into place, and I know my measuring, it's going to probably need a little bit of shim one way or another, but we're getting within, I'm thinking 1/8 of an inch anyways, measuring and measuring and measuring to figure out exactly where that is. So, that spar carry through will mount right there, not 27 3/4, but 27 3/4 and that 1/8. On here you'll have that little piece of metal, and on that piece of metal, that's what the wing will mount to, like that. On that little piece of metal, on the spar carry through. So that's where we'll mount it right there. Now this is leaning over a little, we'll get that level, and that's where we'll start blocking it, because that doesn't even attach. And if I would have mounted this onto this, that's almost, well, that is an inch more forward. That would have brought this spar 1 inch further this way, and then you would have had to mounted 1 inch of shim on that spar to get it onto there. Which begs the question, is that 3/8 used for strength, or is it just some idea of someone putting blocking on there? Because if this was mounted flush onto this, then we could move this forward 1/2 an inch so it's getting more bite onto this. So there is that to think about. All right, I'm just building up this main spar carry through, and again, I don't even know why I bother. Here's the diagram of the spar. So I've cut up this main one, the DHF 15A 1/4 inch ply. Detail R, let's go look at that. So detail R, little triangles that fit in there. Yep, absolutely. DHF 15A right there. DH 15A is, according to the plans, 2.5 inches. That's what I cut it to, 2.5 inches. G1, these little corner pieces, I wasn't even thinking, but G1 corner pieces, 3 by 3. So I cut them 3 by 3. 3 by 3. You put them on there, of course, they're 1/2 an inch higher than 2.5. But then you come here on the, detailed view of it, and it's actually shorter than the DH15A. So how in the world are you supposed to follow the blueprints when It's just comical. So again, I'm just building it however I feel like building it. But yeah, even something as simple as that, where it says right in the plans 3 inches by 3 inches, and this is 2.5. Well, how in the world is 2.5 longer than 3 inches? I have no idea. And then if you think, well, maybe the long one is 3 inches. Well, no, because it says 3 inches by 3 inches by 1/8. So it's 1/8 thick and 3 inches by 3 inches. You can't have 3 inches by 3 inches. It's a triangle. So, yeah, just more of your blueprints for you. Got the laser level out again. Double, triple, quadruple checking all of my measurements. So, at the front, driver's side, left side, 16 1/8, 16 1/8, get it there, at the back, 16 1/8, 16 1/8, 16 1/8. Just about 16. There might be a little warp on that, maybe. Then the rear spar, 5 3/4. 5 3/4. Spars level. Fuselage is level, right to the front. Rear spars level this way. So, now what I'll do is I'm laying up the main spar cross through, and I just made my own measurements. Again, this they say was 2.5. These were supposed to be 3 inches. So I had this cut, so I kept it at 2.5. I changed these down to 2.5. The hardest part of the frickin' build is these little corners on the inside there. I'm laying up these ones first. I'll let it dry, and then I can do the downward and the ones going out to the outside. That's nice and level and square. I'm not sure, this is obviously a stiffener to keep the spar carry through from doing this. It'll stiffen it this way. I don't know how much that is actually needed, and I don't know how effective it would be against a really large pressure, because you've really only got one small glue joint all the way along on the bottom. These are definitely going to help because you're gluing it there and to the bottom, but we'll see. We'll get those laid up. I'll get that in place. The ones on the outside here, it says don't put those in place until the spar is mounted. Gusseting over here, DFC 16. 1/4 inch diagonal drilled to match with wing in place. Okay, that's the main one. Install after spar is located in the plane. So the corner gusset that goes here, which would be that one there, we don't put in until we actually put this in place in the wing. I'm not sure why, because if you can't put that in place, then you can't put all of the their blocking in place until that's in place. So I got the angles cut where it's going to be, so it's going to fit up against here and go down, and then that gusset is going to come down like that, I'm assuming. We'll find out tomorrow when there's glue dried up and stuff. All right. Just working on the spar carry through. Now, one thing that's hard to see on the plans here, there's a spar carry through. There's one of the upper supports, or whatever you want to call it. This block here, I've got that cut to put in, to glue to here, to glue to the cross member, and to glue to the spar carry through. Ignore these little blocks, they're the little triangular blocks that are in there. Same at the top, I've got a little block right in here. Ignore all these triangular blocks. Again, that's the blocks that are on the spar carry through. Then they've got a gusset that goes here and a gusset that goes here. What I've created is just one gusset that goes all the way. And I kept that like that because there isn't much holding this spar carry through. This one cross member, which is only butt glued to here and only butt glued to there, and then two blocks in there. So it's not really a lot of strength holding this cross member, which holds the entire weight of this, other than the block here and the block here. By putting that large gusset in there, you're increasing the area that is on this spar here, whatever you want to call this upper. So that gets glued to this cross member, which gets glued to the blocks, and it just creates a stronger support, pulling the weight onto this main upright, which really should be supporting this spar carry through, but when it sits there, all the weight is actually on this cross member. And this cross member is only glued in this one little place here and this place here. So that's why I went with the one gusset all the way across there. And I've cut this out, so the only reason why I couldn't see why they didn't have a gusset going is so that you can get the strut from the wing, not the strut, but the main spar has two aluminum joints that go through and joins onto the spar carry through. So that's why I cut that little out, so that they can just go right in there. I may have to take a little bit more, but I won't have to take that much because there are only two flat pieces of 1/8 that are on there. So it's not a huge deal. All right, that's my reasoning for that. And now for something completely different. I don't like the square look of the turtle deck as it is in the plans. So I'm thinking of something a little more rounded. And I've just mocked up something here that I am going to try and pursue and see how that works. I'm going to look at, I believe I don't like the square look. It just came up and straight across. I believe it's the Whitman Tailwind. It's kind of that same boxy look to it. And I don't like that. If it's more rounded, more natural looking, I'm more of a, I don't know, organic kind of feeling to it than just squared off. So I was thinking of these bulkheads would be similar to the main bulkhead, but I'd use some of that 1/32 or whatever I have left over ply that we use for the leading edge, and then do hoops similar to what we're using on the dashboard of laminate. We'll laminate some formers together to hold that bulkhead in place and do something like that is my idea. Not sure if anyone's tried that. I'm wondering how the back of the tiger moth or algae's youngster is going to go together. I'm going to watch algae's again because his is rounded like that. So that is going to be my next project for just researching that and seeing if I want to take the time to actually do something like that. Front and rear spar carry-throughs are done. They're in place. I did the laser level again. Everything's level everywhere, so I'm happy with that. Got all that complete. I got onto this tail thing from, my next move is to build the dash, which uses those formers, laminated forms, to create the dash and to create the front of where the gas tank is here. So I was wondering, using that same method, if I could make something rounded for here. So that kind of got me thinking on that. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm going to go over Algie's videos again with how he did his rear end, and go from there. But I do like the rounded look much better than the squared off look. And this isn't structural. This is just to finish off that rear end. Here's where the original formers are. You can see they're just straight right across. So it's kind of boring having that. And again, I just don't like the look of it. So I'm thinking about doing something like that. All right, let me know what you think. All right, let's look at the plans here. DHFP4, these were these formers for the square look. Now, there are no dimensions whatsoever on these plans, so let's check the instruction book and see what it says to make sure we follow the blueprints here. Build fuselage former, print DHF4, that's the one we're looking at, over the print. Once cured, temporarily clamp the fuselage, use the string and eyeball to obtain straight lines as per print. Well, my eyeball is a little rounder than the eyeball on the print, so I think my eyeball will work just fine with the nice round formers on there. Hate to deviate from the blueprints, but
when I have to eyeball, I'll just eyeball it my own. I put both of the wing formers, kind of clamp them in place. I've got them there, again, there's no measurements about where to put them. So I clamp them so that they were just coming down, and you sand off, file off, plane off the top of this little bar here. And they're just level at the top there, and it's level at the bottom there. So I put them both on there, and I marked where the lines are. And then brought them over to the bench and lined everything up. Got the fronts lined up. The lines do match up, which is exactly what's supposed to happen. So I wanted to do that so I can measure to make sure one's not sticking out further from the other one. So I've got them both where they are. They both line up. We'll drill the holes here for the wing strut mounts to come in like that into those. Then we'll glue those in place. On the plans, it calls for SKF 22. And there's two separate ones here, and they have measurements for two separate ones in here. I don't know why you need two separate ones, so I'm just going to take a piece of 1/4-inch ply and put it on there as one piece. I don't see any reason whatsoever to do two pieces like that. Maybe that's what comes in the kit, just so that it's less fragile maybe, or something like that. But I'm just going to cut out one solid 1/4-inch piece like that to fit on the nose to form that, and then 1/16 to wrap all the way around there. All right. Just getting some wing formers on there to see how it's going to look. I'm going to wait a while before I put those on. So the wing formers are there. 1/4-inch ply stiffeners, and then it's going to be wrapped with 1/16 ply. But what's going in the middle here? Is there no stiffener in the middle? Because that is 38 inches of only 1/16 plywood. That's going to be fairly weak. I would think there should be another stiffener, at least one in the middle. And I can't see anything in the plans for that. So, anyone have any ideas on that? Obviously, somebody's built one. Did you put a stiffener in the middle for that ply that's going to go over top of that? Also, so that ply is going to start here. It's going to wrap all the way around, and it's going to come to here. Back a bit. The ply sits on the top along here and wraps around. When it gets to the back here, there's nothing holding it, suspending it there. Now on the plans, the ply sits on the top and it wraps all the way around. There should be a diagonal cross member here to support that ply on there, is what I'm thinking. Anyone have any knowledge of that?